So to begin my drawing in Blender, we need to create a new layer. Blender automatically creates a stroke layer for our grease pencil when we're operating in 2D animation mode. So I can already select the layer that is there and start drawing on that. Or I can also create a new one. So to add a new layer, we'll choose Add Grease Pencil Stroke. That'll automatically create a new stroke. And I can actually go into that, and I don't want that stroke, so I'm going to go into Edit Mode, choose A to select all, and I'll delete all of the points. That will leave us with the stroke layer and all of the parameters set up for the stroke, including fills and strokes and colors that we can work with. I'll pop back into Object Mode, and now I have a stroke layer that I can draw onto. I can name that whatever I want. I'll call it Fox Outline. So to start drawing, we'll click on Draw Mode from the drop-down menu on the left-hand side. I can choose the Draw icon, and I'll have a variety of options to use. I'm choosing Ink Pen, and I have a sidebar over here that gives me all of my tool options. If you don't have that sidebar, it's located in View, under Sidebar. You just check the little checkbox beside the sidebar, or you can click on the little tab that's over on the right hand side of your scene. So that gives me all of the tools available for my brushes, including settings and colors. I have a radius of 21 pixels, so it looks pretty good. I'm going to stabilize my stroke. I'm going to use a radius of 20 pixels there. You can experiment with that. I find 20 pixels works well for me. And I'm just going to start drawing. So because I have stabilized stroke on, there'll be a little bit of a lag behind the stroke. That's great because it controls the stroke. That's what I want. And I'll just quickly draw the enclosed head of my fox. Now I'm enclosing this shape because I want to fill it. Your lines do not have to be enclosed unless you're filling the lines. I'll choose the fill option. I can also choose the type of material or colors. Currently what I have are strokes and one fill. So I can click on the fill, and if I head over to the Materials tab on the far right hand side, it looks like a little beach ball called Material Properties tab. I can choose that color that I want to use as a fill, and I can change the properties. I can choose whether it gives me a stroke and a fill, or just a stroke. So for instance, if I select the black stroke that I have here, I can also choose to fill it with a black color, or just leave it as a stroke. So these are materials that are available to us. So this one that's called gray, I'm going to call Red Fox. And I'm setting both the stroke and the fill to an orange color. I can choose to eliminate the stroke at this point, just so I have a fill because I already have my black line. Now when I go over to the object in my scene that I have just outlined, I'll click the center and it will fill it with that color. Now everything is going to appear a slight bit gray in this mode. To preview this, we will go to Object Mode, and you can see your color with the black outline. Now we can have different layers for each of our objects within Blender as well. One for lines and one for colors. I've actually created that fill on the lines layer, so I'm going to undo that as I want it to be on my colors layer. I'll keep hitting Command Z until I've gotten back to my stroked area, and I'm going to select colors. Now this is available in our object data properties. This controls the data that our grease pencil has created. So I'm going to click on the colors layer, then I'll go back to fill and fill that area with my color. So now those are both independent layers. Now the shape of my fox's body is not completely enclosed with the line. I don't want it to be completely enclosed with the line. So how do I quickly fill this shape? Well, I'll go into my Object Data Properties tab here. And I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to quickly just draw some areas here to close my shapes, to make sure that I can use whatever stroke color I want here actually, so I'll choose red. So all I'm doing is on this new layer, just closing my shape off so that I can fill it. I'm just making sure that there are no gaps. Now I can choose my colors layer, click on the fill, choose my fox fill, and just click inside the areas that I want to fill. And because I've created those blocking lines on a separate layer, I can delete or just make that layer invisible. Now to preview it, I'll go back to my object mode. And because I have an area of the fox's tail that I want white and it's already closed off with the lines, I'll make sure that my colors layer is selected. Go back into drawing mode. And I'm going to go to my materials tab and create a new white material. This is going to be a filled material. I'll change my base color to white. Now when I click within that area, it'll just turn that area white. And I have a new material made now. If I go back to object mode, I'll see the results. Now this object is a shape, and I can choose to maneuver this shape or continue drawing frame by frame to create my animation. If I don't like the way that my lines are looking in my drawing, I can go back to my Object Data Properties tab on the right hand side, choose my lines layer, and then slip into something called Sculpt Mode. This is going to allow me to adjust the shape of my lines. I'll make sure that my colors layer is invisible. And that should just leave me with the lines that I have available to me in my layer. And I can use a variety of objects here. I can grab, I can push, I can twist, pinch, smooth, and I can adjust the thickness. So I want to adjust the thickness of this guy. Oh, that's too much. Go over to my brush settings here, and I can choose subtract to make my line's thickness a little smaller. Adjust the radius as you like to just help it along a little bit. You can also get uneven lines doing this as well. Adjust the strength so that you can control the amount of thickness. And usually just quick feathering sweeps across your line will make the difference. I can also grab sections and reposition my artwork. Or I can use the push tool and adjust the radius to just kind of nudge curves and shapes around to get my line perfect. Switch back on my colors layer, back into object mode to preview. So this method can be done with our colors as well. So I'll make my lines layer disappear. I failed to create the lines separate from the fills, which leaves us in a good position, because now I can show you how to separate the fills and lines so that you can select them independently in different layers. So I'm going to choose the grease pencil object that I've called Fox in my layers panel. I'm going to open up my object data properties tab. I'm going to make sure that the colors layer is turned on, which has both fills and lines in it, not what I want. Select the colors layer, and now I need to choose edit mode. So I'm selecting my outlines by just clicking on them once, and I'll choose M on the keyboard. Hit M and it'll allow me to move that line to a new layer. So M for move. So you can see a little dialog will pop up. It shows me my layers. I'm moving it from colors to lines. And I can just go through, select all of the individual strokes that I want to move, and transfer them to that other layer. To make sure that I have all of the artwork on the proper layer, I'll just make one invisible to ensure that everything is moved over. And if it hasn't, I'll continue moving them over. Once I have them all separated, I can preview by going back into object mode. You can see that my fill is now separated from the strokes from the character. Okay, maybe not. One more. Now this gives me a better view to adjust my artwork. And I can continue going back into Sculpt Mode, adjusting the thicknesses of the lines. And adjusting the shapes. I can always add a new layer within my Object Data Properties tab to create movable objects like the eyes. If I want the eyes to be on a separate layer so they can move around, I can do that. Once I've chosen my Draw tool again, I'll make sure that the proper colors are chosen. And I can draw in my eyes. Back to object mode to preview. I'll turn on my colors layer, show the fill. And my drawing is done.